Hey, what's up, everybody? BDO44 coming at you another video. All right, so now that we have gotten through all of the first games anyway, of the first round, kind of got a little sample size of what the matchups look like. We don't really know exactly what to expect from these series as a whole. If you think one game is going to give you any indication of that, I guarantee you by game 4 of each of these series, you'll feel totally different because that's just how that goes. Playoffs, you get used to it. The first game always feels like, oh my God, we know everything about what these two teams and what we're to expect. But no, that's not how this works. Um, Adjustments, fatigue over time, uh, how players, handle road games and things of that nature, how well role players play on the road. A lot of that stuff hasn't been determined just yet in these series. I look at a series like Minnesota and Memphis, and one would think Minnesota is about to just sweep Memphis away, and that is just not what I expect to see at all. I still think Memphis is the better team there. I still think Memphis can end this series. Um, with I don't know, 6 games, I guess is reasonable to say, but at this point they're going to have to, make some adjustments, just like every other team in this situation. The game we just got through watching now, the one I'm fresh off of, is the Pelicans Suns matchup, and that matchup is similar to the Timberwolves Memphis matchup in the sense that these are two young teams, um, with a lot of athleticism, good matchups, defensive players who are wings that can get all over the place and do all kinds of things on both sides. You see a lot of that on both ends, but at the end of the day, with this Phoenix matchup, you just look at a Chris Paul, you say, he's unstoppable. You look at Devin Booker, he's unstoppable. You look at Ayton, he's unstoppable. I mean, it just becomes a situation where you're looking at way too much star power on top of the campaigns and Cam Johnsons and JaVale McGee's and Aaron Holidays and all these different players that they throw at you. Obviously, Mikal Bridges playing defense and never missing a game. I mean, I think at this point, the only thing that could really stop the Phoenix Suns, in my humble opinion, is some extraordinary athlete like Giannis or Joel Embiid. It's going to take something like that because they're too good of a team and they have enough extraordinary, size in terms of they have that extraordinary athlete in Ayton that can give them the edge against teams like themselves who are very, very good but otherwise have mere mortals. They have that player, that dude that they could throw at Joel Embiid, that they could throw at Giannis, they could throw at Towns, that can give themselves a chance. In some of these situations, as to where Memphis, I'm not really sure that is the case. Obviously, you look at John Morant, he can jump out the gym, but he's still a smaller guy. You look at Jaren Jackson, fantastic, defensive player, fantastic center as a whole, but he has some limitations as well. He's not wiggly. He's not, He's not going to put the ball on the floor. He's not spinning and doing all kinds of stuff like that necessarily. He's more of a traditional big. So I look at him in situations where he may have to go up against Giannis, or situations where he may have to go up against Kevin Durant or something like that, and he may be at a disadvantage in certain situations. Mainly just, in terms of going up against slicker players who can do stuff like that, like guards, I should say. You know what I mean? That's to where a guy like Giannis can guard both bigs and smalls just the same, be guarded by them and handle them just the same. It's one of those situations where I look at Ayton and I think he's an extraordinary athlete. I think he has something on Jaren in that way, which makes Memphis more of a mortal team, if you ask me. Even though they have extraordinary players and they play extraordinary defense as a team, extraordinary offensive talent up and down the roster, at the end of the day, they have mere mortals on their roster, in my opinion, and that will make them susceptible to going up against guys like Embiid and Giannis. So I do think that's just something I have in my mind. Doesn't necessarily have to play out that way. But as we look at this particular series, New Orleans doesn't have enough. They don't have enough at this moment. Maybe if they had Zion, it kind of even up the score a little bit. But I think if Zion was on the floor, um, he'd be running into walls. He'd still be in. He'd be another player in that pinball machine. I mean, obviously they have more scoring on the board. Um, you know what I mean? But he would have to hit his jump shots. He would have to play extraordinary defense. You know, there would be a lot of things that Zion would have to do at a perfect level just to win a game against this Phoenix Suns team himself. So without him, they're really behind the eight ball. Uh, you know, it's just you watch this game and you see they went through the phases where, okay, Devin Booker takes over. He scores 9-10 straight in the third quarter. And then Chris Paul takes over. He scores like 18 points in the fourth quarter. It's like, how do you deal with that type of offensive individual talent when you got team defensive schemes shutting down your best players? You know, Brandon Ingram was running into a wall every time he looked to do anything. He had 2 and 3 people in his face. You know, CJ McCollum, he never got an open look. I don't think I saw a single open shot for CJ tonight. You know, layups and stuff like that. You see a guy like Alvarado trying to drive at the rim, getting blocked. Like, Ayton was not having it. The defense those guys were playing was phenomenal. And just like I said, they're on a mission. You know, the Pelicans are on a nice team. They're a Cinderella team. Got a lot of good things going for them. But they ran into a well-oiled machine with some experience on them and key shooters and defenders and all kinds of different stuff that they need to win a championship. And I think they're as safe as bet to capture that as anybody left, because I don't think New Orleans is going to even be able to win a game in this series after watching that first game. And I know that betrays everything I said at the beginning of this video, but sometimes you just look at matchups and you say, man, even if they make certain adjustments with their lineup, if Phoenix continues to do the things that they do naturally, there should be no reason for Phoenix not to close out games. At the end of the day, this is one of the best clutch teams in recent memory. The metrics tell you that, and so does their 64-win record. They don't lose. If the game is close, it's probably them closing you out with either Devin Booker or CP3 or Cam Johnson corner 3 or something like that. Or otherwise, they're just blowing you out. And it's just, you look at the defensive players that they have in their bigs. If Ayton happens to get in foul trouble, they're dealing with JaVale McGee. If you're not dealing with JaVale McGee, you're dealing with Bismack Biyombo. If you're not dealing with Bismack Biyombo, they can switch around and get Torrey Craig in there. They can move Cam Johnson to the 5 if it happens to come to that. I mean, they have so many different things they can do with their lineup. You know, if you really want to go small ball with them, they can put a lineup on the floor to stretch the floor out so much for themselves. Nothing but spacing everywhere. You know, it's going to take, as I said, Joel Embiid or Giannis Antetokounmpo to knock this team off in 7. I really believe that. I don't think there's anybody else going to stop them. I really don't. It's going to take an extraordinary athlete. And Zion doesn't look like he's going to be playing in this series. But if I were him, I would suit him up and go out there. I would. This is an opportunity for him to make his name. People have forgotten he made an all-star team. They still look at him as somebody who hasn't had an opportunity to play. It's almost like they look at him as Ben Simmons before he was actually out there. You know what I mean? When he was still a rookie for his 3rd year, winning Rookie of the Year. Like, they treat him like he hasn't already accomplished something that allows us to at least understand what type of player he can be if he's down there. That's 30-point scorer right there. That's a 30-point scorer. And if he reaches back into who he was when he was in college, it's also a lockdown defender. So I think Zion, you know, when you consider his size, I think people need to adjust their thinking. You know, and when I say that with caution, because he does need to adjust his diet just the same. He does need to take care of his body. He needs to listen to people who are telling him that, because they do understand what they're talking about. And at the end of the day, eating poorly is just going to cause him pain, literal physical pain somewhere down the road. So that's what it really comes down to. But all in all, adjust their thinking in a sense that, yeah, he's a 300-pound dude, but he's a 300-pound dude who can jump off the ground in ways that no one else ever has. He's a new level body, and you gotta adjust your thinking as to what you think it needs, what you think it can do, what you think it can handle, and most importantly, how much weight it's necessary to have to be in its best shape. Okay, that's something I want to say because I've seen this before in in certain other athletes, particularly football players, where you honestly think they are incapable of being their best self because they're heavier, but they have extraordinary athletic ability, and it's like, no, they're supposed to be heavy. This is how they're built. Like, you can have them eat great, you can have them jog for 3 hours a day. It's not going to make a difference because they're still going to be big. And I think Zion may be one of those people. You know what I mean? And it's just like people are saying, oh, he needs to slim down to certain such and such. He needs to slim down to 220, whatever the heck they're saying. No, he just needs to get out there, play, show us what his best self looks like, and then just take care of himself as he goes along. Not necessarily slim down to Larry Johnson's size or Sean Kemp's best weight or whatever it is that you have in mind that you think he should look like based on bodies that were not his, that you saw be successful. This is a new body, because if you had ever seen anything like this before, you wouldn't be shocked and in awe when he jumps high as he does, when he does the pirouette, under the leg, dunk, spin around, whatever stuff that he can do that only he can do. You know what I mean? I think it's one of those situations where you look at the idea of what evolution actually is as it pertains to athletes getting bigger and stronger and humans just getting bigger and stronger as generations pass. It's like this is a new version of the next best thing. Like, thinking that you know what it's supposed to do or what it's supposed to be like just because you've seen somebody else who may have been big back in the past and that guy did it this way. It's like, nah. Let Zion define Zion. Get out there at the weight you're at. Show us that you can jump all over the place. Show us that you're in good conditioning. And we'll see what you can do. And then when you show us what your best self is, then we'll know what that is. But until we see it, how will we ever know? So that's just my thing. I don't believe he should slim down necessarily. Does he need to change his diet? Yeah, if it's as bad as they say it is, of course he does. But I don't think that him being heavy is any reason to keep him off the floor. That's basically what I'm saying to you. If the only reason why he's not out there is because he's chubby, that is a poor excuse for not playing him. That is my entire point. So, anyway, enough of that. Herb Jones played well. Alvarado, those guys gave it their best shot, but they just ran into a much, much better team. And I think the next team that's going to run this Phoenix is going to run into the same problem. They're just too good right now. That's the bottom line. They should run through the West. No matter who they face, including Memphis, they should beat them so long as they're fully healthy. I just don't see any reason why that wouldn't be the case. And, yeah. If I want to skip around, talk about another team, we can get back into the Celtics and the Nets because I really, really am concerned about the Nets not winning this series. I didn't pick them, and I don't think they're going to win now. After seeing one game, it came down to just one final possession. And Kyrie Irving, as I said, needed to box out. Maybe box out's not necessarily the word because there was no shot up there. But there needed to be a man placed on Jason Tatum, keeping him out of the paint, making it so that he had to fight over you in order to get to that offensive rebound. And that's or to the pass that came his way. That's what it really came down to. If somebody's cutting him off as he's darting into that lane, that pass gets deflected, game over. But from where I was sitting, it looked like that was definitely on Kyrie Irving to read that. Maybe it was the man at the top of the key who kind of let him rotate into Kyrie, and Kyrie's supposed to pick him up. I don't know what happened there, but the play broke down, and the last line of defense had to be Kyrie Irving. Now, I could argue, looking at it from afar, maybe Steve Nash should have put different players on the floor at that time to kind of give himself a better look at things. And I think that's kind of the problem. But I really can't tell. Honestly, I'm not a real basketball mind, so I'm only limited to what it is I see from afar. But I thought the Steve Nash hire from the beginning was a bit strange. And I'm going to say that 2 years later, of course, he's been with the team for a while. I don't have a problem with some of the things that I've seen from his team. They look like they're growing. He's growing as a coach, so I'm not knocking Steve Nash. But I just felt like when you have a championship window of maybe like 3 years, and you pick up these win now players like Kyrie and KD and James Harden at the time, you should probably hire a coach that has had experience winning and ultimately with coaching in general. You should not hire a rookie coach, in my opinion. And that's exactly what the Nets did. And some of the issues that they've had have been, in my opinion, schematic issues. Like, not necessarily talent issues, but just stuff that Steve Nash is choosing to do. Like we complained about earlier today, not playing Blake Griffin and LaMarcus Aldridge. Now, if LaMarcus Aldridge and Blake Griffin are done, hey, I'm a Laker fan. I get it. Sometimes vets are just done. It's over. Cool. No more. But when you're as limited as the Nets are, and you're running average players at your bigs, with respects to Claxton and Drummond, those guys are good, but they're average for league standard. And you got a couple legends sitting on your bench. You got to let the legends play a little bit. You got to see what they can do. And if they can't do nothing, then you got to figure out what it is that that'll help you get something out of them altogether. I mean, if it's nothing, it's nothing. But you got to figure, LaMarcus Aldridge is a mid-range jump shooter. He can be in a rocking chair and get out of that rocking chair and hit a mid-range jump shot, okay? That's never going away. Blake Griffin has worked his way into being a fantastic facilitator and a very good three-point shooter. So if nothing else, he's going to make my offense run smoothly, and he's going to make it so that I'm able to get a couple rebounds here and there with his big body and size. He'll stretch the floor as well. If you can't get those things out of those players, then there's something wrong there. That's just my opinion. I'm not saying they need to come in and be great defenders, but LaMarcus Aldridge is a long body, a center who stretches the floor. You can always use that. Even if he's of slow feet, you put him on the floor with people that complement that, like Claxton, and KD, and you allow LaMarcus Aldridge to get a couple minutes here and there in the second quarter or third quarter or whatever. Ain't nobody saying you got to have him down there to stretch, but he's a 7-footer that shoots. I mean, you got to use him. So I think an experienced coach would make certain decisions that would give them more of a fuller roster right now. At this stage in your season, you should have more, in my opinion. In the old NBA, I get it. Old NBA, you shrink your bench. Cool. You're only playing 7 guys. That's it. But in today's NBA, if you're only playing 7 guys, then that means you're not getting the most out of what you have, because the league ain't full of scrubs no more. Guys are multi-dimensional, and they're sitting on the bench waiting for opportunities. I said that about the Hawks. The 2 guys on the back of their bench, Sharif Cooper and Justin Johnson, are 2 of the best players on their roster, and they're not using them at all. I would love for them to send them to the Lakers. We would have them in regular rotation. Like, that's how real that is. So it's like, I think all coaches in today's league need to get the notion out of their minds that they need to shrink their benches, because most of the players in this league can do more than they're able to based on fewer opportunities to do so. So there's no reason to shrink your bench. Well, maybe there's a good reason, but it should still be tried to work around. It should be worked around, is what I'm saying. You can shrink your bench for matchup purposes. For those who are wondering, you shrink your bench so that you don't have so many options to choose from. For those who are wondering what the other option is, or why you would, it's because you don't want to find yourself in a situation where you have too many different options and you kind of don't know who to play when, which is what I think a lot of teams have issues with. You need a creative coach that can get the most out of everybody while still making everybody feel like they're getting the most out of themselves, which is very difficult. Very, very difficult. So, and then balancing the ego on top of that, I don't envy coaches. But all in all, that's why experience is so important. And KD, Kyrie, they don't have a long window. They don't have 6-7 years to wait for Steve Nash to turn into that guy. And I felt like a lot of what it seemed like they were trying to do was mirroring Golden State in sort of a cliche kind of way, like, ooh, a Steve that shoots. Kerr, Nash, we got KD. Yeah, he's close enough. It's kind of like that's what it seemed like they were doing to me. And I just don't think that's the way to go. And I wonder if ultimately they'll be happy they did that. So we'll see how it plays out. We'll see how that plays out. What else? If you want to talk about Milwaukee and Chicago, I wasn't really surprised by that. No Zoe, no chance. That's my motto in regards to that series. And it's not that Lonzo Ball is about to stop Milwaukee or anything like that. It's just that he gives them another ball handler, another defensive player, yet another person out there who thinks defense. And when you have that, coupled with what Chicago already has, I think that gives them a lot more than what they have right now. You figure Alex Caruso does so much for them, and you saw a lot of that tonight with him playing on the defensive end, stealing the ball, getting boards, doing all the stuff that he does, getting to the line, etc. You throw Lonzo Ball out there, and now you have two guys that do that. You know what I mean? Some of the possessions where guys were taking shots. I saw a couple shots, and I don't want to single out people, but a couple shots that Zach LaVine tossed up there down the stretch. We talk about, if you watch my channel, I complained about Carmelo Anthony and his shot selection, and sometimes LeBron James, and they take quick threes and stuff like that. I understand the importance of volume shooting. I don't want people to think I don't get it. Just because you don't make it don't mean it doesn't make the defense react. I get that. But when it's down the stretch of the game, with only a minute and two minutes to go, every possession matters. Jacking up early 3-point shots that don't have anyone in position to rebound them, it's just a turnover, bro. You might as well just give the ball to the Bucks and let them run the other way. Unacceptable. And that type of play, Zach LaVine just tossed up that 3-point shot with like a minute and a half to go, and it bricked and did nothing. That is what Zoe doesn't do. That's a play that Zoe runs. It gets everybody involved and probably turns into 2 or 3 points and a foul for the other team. That is why I think he's so important. Because you increase the IQ of the team immensely just by inserting him into the lineup. It's not that he's going to be big enough to guard Giannis or that he's going to score enough to overcome the Bucks. It's not that. It's that you are inserting another defensive mind onto the floor to create confusion and put bodies on people and make it more difficult for the Bucks to score, which is something they were having trouble with anyway. Both teams were, really. And I tell you, the Bucks have an Achilles heel, and that Achilles heel is their bench. It ain't that strong. And that's why they didn't score that much. Anytime Giannis went and sat down, you saw exactly how mortal that Milwaukee team is. That will bite them on the butt. They will not win the championship, in my opinion. They just don't have the pieces. They're going to need to reach deeper into their bench, or they're going to need to get more out of guys like Wesley Matthews. See, that's when it starts breaking down for me. You start looking at the Wesley Matthews. You start looking at the guys further back on that bench. Some of the no-name dudes, they need those guys to be useful pieces at this stage in the game. That's too much leaning on Giannis, Middleton, and Holiday. And those guys are going to need breathers, and when they do, it's going to reflect the score going downward, and they're going to have to get those Milwaukee Bucks back in the game each and every time they sit down. It's not going to work against good teams. It's not going to work against the Boston. It's not going to work against Miami. It ain't going to work against the Suns. You see what I'm saying? I do not think Milwaukee's going to win the championship. I don't. I really don't. I think a lot of people pick them to come out of the East, and they may very well. But they're going to have problems once they start going up against teams with real benches. I really believe that. So, yeah, that's just a little something to talk about. But anyway, yeah, you guys, that's a little brainstorming. First day, weekend rather, of the playoffs. Fantastic. Hope everybody's enjoying their Easter Sunday. I know I am. And I think I'll leave it at that. Obviously, I can keep talking about basketball for the rest of the night. But that's where I'm going to leave it for now. In the morning, I'll probably give you some more of my thoughts. But that's what I got. BDF 44. Thank you all for watching.